Hello, let us showcase one of the best variation for the Energy Blade Inquisitor. Compared to the original version, the transfigured HEXBLAST of Contradiction has a higher base, critical strike chance, and deals even more damage with hits against hexed enemies. However, its chaos damage is resisted by the highest enemy's resistance instead, which renders it very hard to use in most cases. And the best way to benefit from its amazing scaling is by adding flat damage from other sources such as Battle Mage with Energy Blade or Archmage support. Due to its very slow cast time, the mines or traps remain the superior option, especially if you could use the Curtain Call helmet. To scale the damage, you will use the usual Energy Blade Inquisitor setup, which uses a combination of specific unique items and attributes to achieve absurd amounts of energy shield. The Energy Blade is a buff that conjures a magic weapon in your hand, which converts your energy shield into lightning damage. With the Battle Mage effect and the Spellblade support, you will add over 200% of your main hand weapon damage as extra damage for the HEXBLAST. Lastly, you can use the Adorned Jewel and Specialized Magic Jewels to gradually elevate this build to insane levels due to its infinitely stacking nature. Thanks to the Curtain Call, you will throw 3 mines at once, so you don't need to use the Minefield support, which would slow your throwing speed in half. For smooth gameplay, you will need both Blasphemy Aura and a Curse on Hit modifier to always benefit from the HEXBLAST's improved damage and area of effect. The build has high amounts of energy shield, spell suppression chance and evasion rating, but rather poor physical damage, mitigation and low energy shield recovery. Thanks to the HEXBLAST's unique properties, you will freeze most enemies with your lightning damage. The build can be pretty fast, but your enemies must be within the Blasphemy range for effective clear, and the explosions are not big enough for very dense packs. The main advantage is the single target damage, which is absurdly high. It's easily one of the best boss killers in the game currently. The build requires certain unique items to work properly, but they are rather cheap. The Adorned setup can be upgraded indefinitely, but it's not necessary at first. Every unique item from this list is very important. You should collect them all before fully committing to this build. They allow you to greatly scale your energy shield and damage via attributes and maximum life. The Flask with 100% uptime is necessary to deal with chaos damage. The majority of your energy shield comes from the Ivory Tower armor. It converts your reserved life into energy shield, so you want to reserve as much as possible. Since you don't have any mana, it doesn't grant you protection against chaos damage, so you will need a specific unique flask for that. This shield grants you tons of damage and critical strike chance based on your maximum life, which you stack to convert into an energy shield. Anyway, the sacrifice leaves you at 1 point of life, but it can't kill you. The Curtain Call is a very important helmet. It adds extra mines to your every throw, which massively improves your DPS. It is very cheap, so you should look for useful corruptions, such as reduced reservation costs or increased effect of your shock. The Shaper's Touch Gloves grant you tons of maximum life and boost your energy shield and evasion rating based on your attributes. You should get one with Corrupted implicit that curses enemies on hit. It can be any curse, but a defensive one is preferred. You need it because the HEXBLAST removes curses faster than the Blasphemy could reapply it again. The Cyclopean Coil is another great synergistic unique. It grants you tons of attributes and improves your damage based on the lowest attribute you have. You can boost the attributes with the Intrinsic Catalyst. The Astramentis is a simple yet excellent amulet for this build. It grants you tons of attributes which you can further boost using the Intrinsic Catalyst. You should anoint the Utmost Swiftness, notable for even more dexterity. The Brutal Restraint is a mandatory jewel. It can grant you the Traitor Keystone, which is used to generate flask charges. It adds extra bonuses to nearby notables. Look for even more flask charges and Alchemical Genius. You will only use defensive auras, and this jewel can make them even more powerful. Look for additional spell suppression chance, chaos resistance, or physical damage mitigation. The Adorned Jewel introduces a completely new way to scale your damage with magic jewels. It is expensive, but offers amazing scaling opportunities. In most cases, even the low-budget version will be better than regular rare jewels, and the setup can be upgraded over time easily. At first you can use the attribute Transforming Jewel to gain a large amount of dexterity at the cost of strength. It is wasteful, but you need to reach 800 dexterity for the Curtain Call helmet at any cost. It should be replaced later on. Reaching 800 of each attribute is your first priority. After that point, you can focus on getting more attributes to improve your damage and survivability, or shift towards the critical strike multiplier and mind throwing speed, which scale your damage more efficiently but provide no defense. You will also need maximum life and cap your resistances. Your weapon will be converted to an energy blade, which keeps the sockets of the original weapon, including an abyssal socket that allows you to use an additional jewel. It can be any one-handed melee weapon. It doesn't need to be a sword. Your boots should provide a lot of dexterity, maximum life, and movement speed. On top of that, you should also look for defensive modifiers such as spell suppression or chaos resistances, but you can also opt for even more attributes. On your rings, you should seek tons of attributes and a bit of maximum life or energy shield. The amethyst ring is preferred for the extra chaos resistance, but you can also use the vermilion ring for more life. Try to get the all attribute modifier to magnify the dexterity you gain from it. On your abyss jewel, try to get maximum life, attributes lacking elemental resistances or critical strike multiplier. It can also grant you immunity against corrupted blood. Remember that the Adorned Jewel doesn't affect the jewels socketed in the equipment. You will use a lot of jewels. At first, rare jewels are more accessible. Use them to boost your maximum life, energy shield, attributes, mind throwing speed, and critical strike multiplier. You will want to replace them later, so don't overspend on them. For the Adorned Jewel, you will need corrupted magic jewels. You can have only 2 modifiers here, but they will provide twice as much value, or even more, with a better roll on the Adorned Jewel. At a higher budget, you can also look for useful corrupted or synthesized implicits. The Coruscating Elixir is your only defense against chaos damage. Forgetting to activate it might lead to your quick demise. It also grants you a lot of fire resistance. With the Traitor Keystone, you will passively gain flask charges for each empty slot, so you should remove 2 flasks to ensure 100% uptime on the Coruscating Elixir. You can use 2 other elemental flasks for extra resistance, or replace one of them with the Quicksilver flask for better mobility. HEXBLAST of Contradiction deals massive damage to hexed enemies and allows all damage types to inflict every elemental ailment. With this setup, you will throw 3 mines that automatically use this skill for you. The Spellblade support adds tons of damage to the HEXBLAST, which has a very high effectiveness of added damage. To throw mines, you will need the high impact mine support. Getting proper socket colors can be troublesome. We recommend using tainted chromatic orbs, as they ignore attribute requirements. The Purity of Elements is a defensive aura that grants you a lot of elemental resistances and makes you immune to all elemental ailments. The Discipline grants you plenty of energy shield, which is a source of your damage. You can also use the Arctic Armor or Purity of a particular element if you prefer so. The Vitality Aura provides life regeneration, which you will convert to energy shield, regeneration via Zealot's Oath Keystone. To use all auras, you will need the Enlighten support. You also need to leave enough unreserved life for the HEXBLAST mines. The Grace is another important defensive aura that grants you a lot of evasion rating. It will be greatly boosted by your gloves. Use the Eternal Blessing to make it free. It disables mana reserving auras, but you are using Blood Magic Keystone, so it has no negative effect on you. You will need to apply a hex to your enemies so the HEXBLAST can deal its bonus damage. You ignore resistances, so it is best to use a defensive curse such as Enfeeble or Temporal Chains. The Blasphemy applies a linked curse to all nearby enemies. The Awakened version has a slightly lower reservation cost. The energy blade summons a magic weapon in your hand. It lowers your energy shield in exchange for its base lightning damage. You can deactivate it in dangerous situations to instantly regain your energy shield. Increasing the quality of the energy blade with the enhanced support improves its damage and your survivability. You can also pair it with another 2-link setup. You don't need this gem to detonate mines manually, but it is required for the interaction with other gems. The automation will constantly trigger your mines. The HEXBLAST cannot be triggered without a target in its range, so you can preload all your mines safely. The Enduring Cry is a war cry that grants you rapid energy shield regeneration for a short moment, and generates enduring charges which grants you bonus elemental resistances and physical damage mitigation. The Call to Arms automatically uses this war cry for you every few seconds. The additional quality from the enhanced support is very useful here to increase its frequency. The shield charge performs a very fast charge towards a targeted location. It is your main movement skill and scales with your attack and movement speed. If you find a socket to spare, you can also use the momentum support to make it even faster, but it is not required. The additional quality is also useful here if you prefer more speed. Frostblink is an instant teleport that leaves a chilling ground in both locations. Use it to quickly dodge incoming attacks or move around faster. You should kill all bandits. The 2 additional passive points are very important to fit in more jewels. For your major Pantheon power, we recommend the Soul of Arakali. It helps you with the damage over time effects. The Soul of Ralakesh is the best minor Pantheon choice for this build, as you don't have access to a reliable source of bleeding removal. The final version of this build scales with attributes and specific endgame unique items, so leveling can be very daunting if you are not familiar with this playstyle. It is possible, but we recommend using the usual Archmage setup instead, which will effortlessly carry you through the campaign and save you a lot of time by sourcing the damage from your mana. For more tips and suitable passive tree progression, visit the written guide on the website. The final version is spread across the entire passive tree. It picks up a lot of attributes and maximum life, 9 jewel sockets, and a few important masteries and keystones. The blood magic causes you to reserve life instead of mana. The Eternal Youth grants you constant life recharge, so you can freely use your skills. Other keystones are rather straightforward. They improve your damage and survivability. The Agnostic Keystone should be transformed into the Traitor via Brutal Restraint Jewel. Do not pick it up without it. The Aura Mastery is also very important. It significantly reduces the reservation of your auras. The notables for 30 dexterity are usually not recommended, but here they allow you to use more jewels with the critical strike multiplier instead. That concludes today's video. We hope you found it fun and informative. If you want to see more build guides, consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. Have a good day and see you next time.